We are lucky to have this webinar series on cybersecurity in accordance with the DBATU Alumni Association. We are all the DBATU alumni, and we have our respected Professor Babulgaonkar sir. I thank him for joining. We have our guest talk by Shweta Nair ma'am and Sam Varghese sir. So I will be first introducing Sam sir or Sam Varghese sir. Sam sir has total 20 year of experience in privacy and then data protection, information security, risk and compliance, business continuity, and he also has hand-on experience across board security activities. He then recently is with Geo for around 8 years as a security strategy and has recently taken a lead at the privacy function. So he has a very nice experience and nice job details, job profile, sir. He has also worked in consulting roles for 12 years, working with the bank and IT companies, manufacturing across India, US, and Middle East, etc. So he has not only worked in India, but he has also worked in other states. So DBATU alumni are, I mean, making their mark in around the world. Sam sir, if I am not wrong.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, so he has also he was also PCI DSS QSA, and he has worked with various bank and financial companies in implementing card protection and its certification. So it was a little, I don't feel it is little, sir. It's a long, I mean, journey, and you have a very nice experience in data security and these things. And you have worked with many companies, right from banks to the multinational companies. So we are having esteemed speaker today, Sam Varghese sir. So you will all be enjoying the talk by Sam Varghese sir, and you will all be getting a very nice kind of knowledge related to data security and cyber security and these things. And secondly, we have Shweta Nair ma'am. She is also our esteemed Batu alumni. Shweta Nair ma'am. She is currently working with Reliance Jio as a DGM. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Just a small correction.
Okay.
I am not an alumna of Batu, but
Okay.
I am Sam's colleague from Reliance Jio.
Okay.
So very happy to be here.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry.
No problem.
But we are all thankful for joining, ma'am, and we are all thankful. We are all DBATU alumni. On behalf of DBATU alumni, I'm thankful for you to be present as a speaker to us. And ma'am is currently working with Reliance Jio as a DGM, and she has about 15 years of experience in working IT, information security, and privacy field. She has also worked with multiple organizations across various domains like Infosys, Ernst, and Young Palladion Network, Capgemini, etc. More on, she has a degree in electronics engineering from Sardar Patel College of Engineering. She has also done MBA from Symbiosis International University. And she is also enthusiastic in yoga, and she is fond of reading also. So that's adding a beauty to your portfolio, ma'am. Being a fitness freak, and ma'am. Uh, so that's a nice of you, ma'am. And we are happy to have these two speakers today. So that was introduction from my side, and now the speakers can start.
Sure. Thank
Thanks.
you, Roshan sir, for the introduction.
Okay.
Sam, you want to say anything, or we can
Yeah.
start?
No, I just wanted to say thanks. Accidentally I ended up on a train today. So that is why I had to make sure that somebody else is on a, on a proper link. So on my request, she has come. She has very good experience. Since the link is good, I am on call. But she'll be primarily taking the presentation. Thanks for this arrangement, and thanks, Shweta.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Okay. On behalf of IT department and DBATU, I'm welcoming to Sam sir and Sweta madam. So over to ma'am.
Yeah, thank you everybody for the wonderful welcome, and good morning to all the students. And it's a pleasure for me to share my views on what what I think, or what privacy actually means in the in the actual world. So when you talk about privacy, I'm sure it's a hot topic today. Firstly, just wanting to confirm if you're able to see my screen.
Yes,
Yes,
madam.
screen is visible.
Yeah,
You can do an F5 also.
yeah. Done. So today, privacy is a hot topic because at least in this year in India, you have seen a lot of news, especially on Facebook, WhatsApp, our present government, the banks, and data leaks, and we had Cambridge Analytica. So privacy concerns have caught up and is in news recently. And firstly, I want to discuss on what exactly you mean by privacy. So, privacy as a concept means that an individual wants to be left alone, and he has the right to be, free from interference, free to do what he wants to do without being subject to, interference, surveillance, or any kind of, intrusion by the outside force. Now, uh, so it's a very personal concept, and it means different things to different individuals. Now, when you talk about what privacy means for some of us, I'm sure all of you are actively using Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp, and all other social media apps currently. So when you use that, essentially it means that you are ready to share some part of your life with the outside world. Okay, but there is other set of people who may be willingly or unwillingly. Unwillingly means that because they don't have the technological capabilities or solutions available, they they do not use this, and by virtue of that their life is considerably more private than us. So privacy is something that each one of us chooses for ourselves. Okay, so let me take some use cases, or something that is popularly used by all of us. I think 99 or 100% of us use Google, right? In the recent past, the Google CEO has said that he has dismissed privacy, saying that if you want privacy, then it means that you have done something wrong and you want to hide it. Okay, so even though when you open Google, when you open Facebook, even this particular chat, Google Meet that you open, if you see the chat window, the first banner that you will get is ensure that you are following the privacy, and there'll be some banner on privacy. And whenever you open Google, Google will say that Google, is concerned about your privacy. But how concerned is it actually about your privacy? So this is, the hypocrisy that big firms like Google and Facebook have, that I want to take you through first. So on one hand, he says that, if you have something you don't want anyone to know, you shouldn't do that. So what he's trying to say is that uh, uh, today data privacy does not exist. So everything is open to everybody, and everybody knows everything about you. Uh, and then this happens. So some user actually tried to find information about the CEO on Google.
Shweta, your slide is stuck, I think.
Is it for everybody? Because I am.
Yeah, now it is moved.
Yeah, are you
I think you
seeing
can do
the?
an F5.
Yeah, I've done an FI.
Acha, then I think you are on the other screen, I guess.
Actually, ma'am, you can share your whole screen, madam. Then you can, yeah.
Sure. Is it visible now?
Right now, yes, ma'am. Now properly, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, okay. So what happens is one, CNET organization, the user actually used Google to find more information about the CEO, and made it public. And what happened was, Google then, it was pleasantly, or surprised that somebody used Google to find out personal information about the CEO, and then it banned that organization. So when it comes to yourself, you come to know how privacy is important. Okay, the same thing happened when you use Facebook. You share your life with all your friends and across the world, and Facebook essentially has every detail about you. So where you studied, where you stay, when you upload a photos, it knows where you have traveled, who are your friends, what are your interests. If you like something on Facebook, you know that these are your likes, these are your dislikes. And again, if you use Facebook, you will get a lot of banners saying that Facebook is concerned about your privacy. We care about a lot about your privacy. But when you talk about Mark Zuckerberg, what he does to protect his privacy is, when he buys a house, he also buys 4 houses around his house, so that nobody else ends up spying on him. So that is the level of privacy that he as a person wants for himself, but he is offering a service or platform to all of us, where he expects all of us share our personal lives with everybody, right? So the concept of privacy, what I want to say, is different for all of us, and we decide how much and what we want to share, and what is okay for us and what is not okay for us. So there are certain concepts of privacy that I want to discuss with you. There are multiple theories on privacy that are available from multiple authors. So these are some of the commonly known or popular theories on privacy. Uh, so first being territorial privacy. Can I request all the participants to go on mute, please? Thank you. So by territorial privacy, it means that I'm not sure if you are aware, but there is a concept known as a bubble. So there's some concept known as privacy bubble, and it's like your personal space. So when it depends on the region that you belong to. So in India, we say that our bubble is very less. So it's very small because of the population, because of our culture, because of our joint family culture, etc. But when you go to US or Europe, the bubble is very big. So they don't like, especially Europeans or Americans, when you speak to them, they don't like you standing very close to you. They say that it's invasion of their personal space. So territorial privacy talks about your personal space. So this also covers concepts like usage of CCTV cameras, scanning. When you go to airport, you're scanned, right? So that scanning. Or in India, when you go to a mall, they scan you, right? With a hand scanner. This is a culture very popular in India, but when you go outside, you will see that in malls or in cinemas, nobody will frisk you or scan you. So they are very, very, concerned about their personal space. So I'll give you an example here. So you have seen that in organizations or even in your college, you might have CCTV cameras installed, right? So I have worked with a French company before, and there, when you have CCTV cameras above your workspace, it's actually a project. Because at one point you want to ensure that physical security has to be maintained, and you have cameras everywhere, but at the same time the camera cannot be pointing at an employee's laptop, because then they consider that to be an invasion of what I do. Nobody should see what I do on my laptop. So the placement of the CCTV cameras also in an organization, in an office, it comes under, it talks about territorial privacy. So you know that CCTV cameras are installed in work areas, but it will not be installed in washrooms, right? So this concept explains what territorial privacy means. Second concept is locational privacy. So when you use GPS, when you use Google Maps, you're sharing your data, latitude and longitude details with the service provider, right? So this is essentially locational privacy. So where you live, where you are going, so somebody has the lat long details of you, so that gets covered in the locational privacy. Bodily privacy, what you do with your body. So you want to do, so you should have the freedom to do whatever you want to do with your body, whether it's tattoos, whether it's piercing, you want to shave your head, you want to wear certain clothes. So essentially this covers bodily privacy. It also covers aspects related to, say, DNA, your genome testing. Now you might wonder why this is a concern. If you take an example of a country like Germany, which has a history of Holocaust, so I'm sure many of you, all of you might be aware of what happened during the Second World War and what the Nazis did to Jews. So the Germans today are very touchy about their history. So somebody like a Jew today is extremely concerned that somebody might do a DNA testing, might find out what ethnicity or what race he, what his forefathers did, what his great grandfathers did, primarily because there is still that fear, and still they carry their history with them, that because we were of a particular race, particular ethnicity, we were subjected to certain kind of bad treatment. So you might appreciate this point of bodily privacy in terms of what happens in certain countries and how they want to protect their history and their ethnicity, their DNA, etc. Personal privacy is again your personal space. You don't want anybody, interfering with your life. Nobody. You want to do certain things and not be in public domain. So that essentially, covers the personal privacy. Communication privacy is related to the tracking, your emails that you share. Is somebody snooping over your emails? When you share an email to a particular person, is there a third party who can read your emails? When this also got discussed a lot recently, when we had the WhatsApp privacy policy update, um, and you want to be sure that your messages are encrypted and those messages are not shared with any other party apart from those who it's intended to. um, Another thing that we have recently faced in India, I would like somebody to, uh, tell me if they are aware and they can link on communication privacy or snooping. We recently had a case in India a couple of months back where there was a lot of news report on a particular company snooping. So does anyone want to give it a try? What am I talking about? Where the government was accused of, doing some kind of snooping on certain set of individuals in India.
Pegasus, ma'am.
Yes, that's right. So Pegasus is, we have read that recently. So Pegasus is something that is not available to individuals. So you as a person cannot, use Pegasus. It's available to government agencies. And there was an intelligence report which stated that they conducted that report for, that analysis for 40 odd countries, 40 plus odd countries, and India was one of them. As an outcome of that report, they said that the Indian government, or certain agencies in the government has actually used this particular software to snoop on certain political parties, leaders, certain individuals, high-ranking individuals, business, users in India. So this is what we mean by communication privacy snooping, and interference with the messages, some third party, collecting data that it's not meant to be. Information privacy is essentially when you're using data, how that data is protected, how it's collected, how it's used, whether it's used for its purpose that it's intended to use. So primarily information privacy is something that typically we work with, me and Sam work with. So how you deal with the data, that the personal data that you collect, and what kind of safeguards that you have, and what do you do with that data. So essentially, broad level, these are the high level concepts of privacy that exist today. So what do you get by enforcing privacy? So there are two groups of people in the world currently. One who are privacy champions and who say we want privacy. There's another group of champions. They say no, privacy is not possible. Privacy is dead. You cannot have privacy today in a global environment. If you want to use a service, you have to give your data. So there is no free lunches. There's no concept of सब free में मिल जाएगा. No, that will not exist. So if you want to use WhatsApp, you have to share the data. There's two groups of people currently. But essentially, if you're enforcing privacy, what do you get? Solitude. So you can link this with what our grandparents, or what our earlier generation, our parents, how they have lived their life. So solitude is nothing but the ability to be left alone. So whatever happens outside, whatever noise, interference, whatever happens, I have the right to live my life as I want, and to be left alone. So that is what solitude means. Anonymity. I don't, when I go out, when I attend, when I see a movie in a theater, when I go to a stadium to watch a match, when I go to a mall, I don't want anybody, recognizing that, oh, I think I know him. Unless you are a celebrity, or unless you yourself want, to make yourself public, and you have YouTube video about a YouTube channel, etc. As a normal person who's leading a normal life, and uses services as a consumer, uses Facebook as a consumer, uses YouTube as a consumer to view. When I go out, I don't want people saying that, oh, I think she is Shweta Nair, I think I read something about her. So this is what anonymity means. So you would like to do certain things as a anonymous person in public domain. So you don't want that kind of attention coming around to you. So that is what anonymity means. Intimacy is do something privately with your folks, with your spouse, with your children, with your parents. You would want that level of comfort to do certain things, and not want any interference. So you don't want an outsider breaking into your group of intimate relationships, and saying that, I want to be a part of this. So no. So intimacy is something that you want to do certain things with certain set of people, and be intimate about it, and not let anybody else interfere and do certain things. And reserve is a very mild form of a feeling that even if you are in a public place, you have the right to control what you say about yourself. So in this forum, I was introduced as what I do in my corporate life. I don't want anybody else to know, or rather, this is not a platform where I'll tell you about my family, about what I do in my free time. So their reserve is where you say something that is important, you withhold certain information that you don't want to share publicly. So that is what reserve means. So what you get by enforcing privacy is solitude, anonymity, intimacy, and a right to reserve information. I hope I am clear and I'm not going too fast. And if in case you have any questions, please note it down. We'll take the questions at the end of the session. Now, again, like I mentioned, there are multiple theories of privacy that are available. Multiple people have done a lot of research. This is another, theory in terms of privacy. That's accessibility privacy, decisional privacy, informational privacy. So like I said, accessibility is about physical space. So we have already discussed. So ability to be left alone, let alone, and nobody else should interfere with what I'm doing, what my decisions are, what I want to do in my life. So that's accessibility privacy. Decisional privacy is freedom to do what I want, to follow my religion, to follow certain set of choices that I have in terms of who I want to marry, which organization I want to join, which school I want my kids to join. So those kind of choices, whether I want to avail a service, not avail a service, whether I want to vote for a particular political party and not vote for a particular political party. So that kind of imposition, I don't want that from any third party. So it's my choice and my decision, and I am free to make that choice and decision. So that's decisional privacy. Informational privacy is again, like we have already discussed, the data. When I am sharing my personal data for something in exchange of some service, right? So how that data is being used, whether it's being used for the purpose that I've shared that data, we'll see some more details on this in the subsequent slide. So before we go ahead, let's be very clear on what is privacy and what is actually intrusion. So these two cases that we have mentioned here. So say you're using a computer and somebody comes in your lab, right? In your college lab, you're using a computer, you're browsing something, and somebody comes in. You see that person coming in, and you are aware of the presence of that person, and you know that I need whatever I do, he might see it, so you are aware. So this is what the first scenario is. Taking the second scenario, again, you are using a computer in your home, and somebody peeps through the peephole or sees through a window or a gap in the door and tries to find out which browsers you are surfing through. So if we do that, right, especially when you have a sibling, or you want to see that what is he up to, what is he trying to do, whom is he talking to. So this is second one, is intrusion, where you are not aware that somebody is actually invading your personal space. So first one is having awareness that yes, I am aware that somebody is there, and somebody is checking, might have access or might see what I'm doing. Similar to the CCTV case that we saw. If you see, wherever there are CCTVs installed in public places, they will have a banner saying that smile, you're on camera, or this place is under CCTV surveillance. So that kind of notice is explicitly put out. So when you go to a mall, that CCTV is capturing you. is capturing your movements. But suppose you walk into some store where they have a hidden camera, and you are not aware that the camera is monitoring your actions. So that is intrusion. And first one is basically privacy, but you are aware of what is happening with your privacy. So I hope I'm clear in terms of what privacy is and what intrusion is using these use cases. So let's talk about how now that we have understood what privacy means, what are the different kinds of privacy that we have, theories that we have, what is currently happening when we use applications in our mobile, in our web browsers, etc. So say you log into any say banking site, right? So when you create an account, savings bank account, what do they ask you for? KYC documents, right? So KYC documents, proof of address, proof of identity, your Aadhaar card, your PAN card, your parents' details, your income, your gender, your date of birth, your salary, if you're a salaried person. If you're not a salaried person, who is your caretaker, or who are your parents. So imagine this kind of information goes to one particular entity, right? And everything is digital now. You also have a video KYC feature that happens currently with banks. You can do video KYC. So why privacy has become a concern now? So ये सब तो पहले भी होता था. Earlier also we had to give all these data for opening a bank account. But what has happened is, earlier when we gave this data, it was purely physical copies, right? We gave a printout, and the bank used to check the details, create a savings bank account, and these details essentially were limited to that particular banking app, and like nobody bothered with it, and yeah, it's for banking related purpose. Now just imagine how banking today is interlinked with your everyday life, right? You have your UPI, you have your debit cards, you have your credit cards, you have your scan and pay. It has become so easy for you. So you go to a retail, you go to a shop, and what we do, we just open our app, scan, and say you paid this. So you go to a medical shop and you pay this. So what happens is, essentially your banking activity is now linked or correlated to your retail activity. So this person used this money from this bank for this medical shop in this area. So that kind of interlinking is now possible. We will also see some more cases in the further slide. So this was a simple case of a bank. Now take any other example of your any shopping app that you use, right? So you can also buy medicines today online. So just imagine what you can do with that data, right? So when you download a medicine app, say PharmEasy, NetMeds, etc., what they ask you, what is your age, they will ask you your gender, they will ask you your all those details, name, they have your address. When there are certain, when you're ordering generic medicines, they will not ask you for prescription, but otherwise they will tell you to upload the prescription, right? So suppose your parents or somebody has a diabetes or is suffering from some heart condition. You upload the prescription and you order a particular medicine related to diabetes or heart condition. Now what does the platform know about you? It knows that you have ordered this medicine for this person because there is a name on that prescription. That is the age. You might know the age of that person. You might the platform might know that this person is suffering from diabetes. based on the medicine, it can say how severe the diabetes is, because you have dosage mentioned in the prescription, you have number of times it's mentioned. The doctor might also scribble on the history of your medical condition. So all this data is available with that particular platform, right? Now, how it uses that platform, we don't know. Whether that particular organization is sharing that data with the pharmacy industry, pharmaceutical industry, whether that particular app is sharing that data to set of doctors, to health experts. You have health services coming online. You see that because it was mentioned in the introduction, I practice yoga, and so whenever nowadays we learn yoga from the app, right? So whenever you Google something, if I use Facebook or some other, when I Google something, there is an ad that says that this particular service offers yoga for 399 and this. So that kind of ads start getting populated on your platform. So we don't know how that data, whatever you're using, whatever you're browsing, because the technology is so advanced today, you don't know how that data is being used currently, right? So that is why privacy has become a concern. Because earlier, since everything was in paper form, it was difficult to aggregate and link and correlate your data with to find some meaningful information about you. But now that everything is online, it's on system, the data can be merged, it can be mined, they can find meaningful information. That is exactly what happened in the Cambridge Analytica case. So yeah, I'll spend just couple of minutes to explain what happens and why Facebook was in news for the Cambridge Analytica case. So what Cambridge Analytica as a company does is, on Facebook, it will so Facebook has shared data of its users means you and me, using Facebook, to Cambridge Analytica without our consent. So they didn't tell us ki we are sharing your data with a company called, a third party called Cambridge Analytica. Okay, that data has gone to Cambridge Analytica, or has been going, and now probably because of the cases it has stopped. We don't know what Cambridge Analytica does with that data. So a particular set of people in India. So for my age group, these are my likes. This is what I like. Say I like a YouTube video of Rahul Gandhi's speech, right? I like that. It takes that. What it will assume is I belong, or I am affiliated to a particular political party in India. Now what it does with, it will aggregate all this data for all the users. It will make, say 18 to 30 age group के लोग, they उनका likes are towards this. They are more into this political party's views. This category of users have some affiliation to this. There are certain category of users who are neither here neither there. They gather this data and they share it with particular set of users. Now, who are these users? It can be our government. So government has tied up with Cambridge Analytica, and they say you give us meaningful data. Now, what the government does is, for the users who are neither here nor there, through the platform, through Facebook platform, it will start showing you videos. It will start, in your timeline, you'll start seeing certain ads, certain videos, certain content, so that they are able to change your mindset and ensure that you go here and not there. You are affiliated to this mindset, this political view. And for them who are in that political mindset, they will again start populating and start bombarding with content that itne saal ye sab, the country has been ruled by this particular party for so many years, but nothing has happened. Look what this party did. So are you correlating that in last 2 to 3 years, you have seen the amount of pro and anti, irrespective of the political parties, all political parties are using this particular analytics platform. So whatever data you're sharing, you are doing it, say very innocently that, I am sharing with my friends, my relatives, my college friends, my office colleagues. But how that data is being used to manipulate you. So that is why privacy is a concern. How the platform is able to influence users. And this particular Cambridge Analytica, it's used not just in India, but it was also said to have impacted the results of the US, where the Republican political party, Donald Trump, had hold the office for the second time. It is said to have changed the mindset of users who were actually, Democrats, and they influenced them so much that they actually ended up voting for the Republican Party. This also happens to females, right? So if you know that US has not had a single case of a female president till now. So where there was a wave stating that, it will have a first female president, this group of users were also actively influenced to say that, she's not capable enough. Look what she has done. Personal life related content being put out on public space. So that's what it can do, and that's why privacy is important today, because your data is not restricted to just the app. Now, like we mentioned, I've already covered this for the banking application. Now, anything you do, you buy a house, you need to be. I was recently admitted for a hospital procedure, and the hospital says that for insurance, Aadhaar is mandatory. Aadhaar card is mandatory. Why should Aadhaar card be mandatory for insurance when I have a PAN, when I have other details, when I have the doctor subscription, when I have the company sponsored, insurance? So we don't know. So you end up giving a lot of data about yourself to avail certain services, right? Aadhaar is, so we give it everywhere now, right? Aadhaar, PAN, your address, etc., your biometrics. So when you avail a service, you are expected that you give data. Now, what is our expectation? That when we give data, they use that only for that purpose, right? So what happens is, when I use the hospital facilities for cashless insurance, and when I gave that details to the hospital, since that day up to today, I am getting SMSs and calls saying that we have this insurance plan for you and your family. It has more coverage and you have to pay less premium. So I'm sure from where this data has gone, right? So that is a concern that we have, that when we share our data today, we are sure that it will not be restricted to that use. And there is no way to know how we end up misusing that. Another case which we have, this is very specific to the field that we work in Jio. So when you use a mobile service, the mobile service operator knows your location, right? So I'm sure a lot of you see Crime Patrol. So the first thing that the police will say for any absconding criminal is, iska pura call history or location details leke aao. How do they know that? Because whenever you call, they know from which location you have been calling, and the telecom operators has a history of where all you have traveled and which all places you have been. But it is essentially the part of the service, because if you have to use that service, the telecom operator needs those details to be able to give you that service, right? Now, how they use that data is something that we should be concerned about. again, I have spoken about this. There are a lot of pros and cons. The ease with which digital payments have made our life simpler today. I think we don't need to carry our wallet anywhere. Only our phone is sufficient, and we are able to do all kind of transactions. Go anywhere, book a cab, go to a mall, pay in a restaurant. So our entire day without our wallet is sufficient, right? You are able to do everything with your phone. That is the ease that you get. But at the same time, like I mentioned, uh, where all that your digital footprint is available to the apps. So where all you have spent, right? So where all you have gone, how much you have spent, till what duration, how many days you have stayed in that location. So all that details are available in the digital world to the apps. This is from a case study. This is copy paste. Essentially, for the apps, I want all of you to go back and see the application settings in your mobile and see the permissions that each of the app currently is having in your phone. So this is a snapshot of what, a simple app like Flashlight, is able to, by default. Permission is take pictures and videos. Sorry, view Wi-Fi connections, read phone status and identity, view network connections, full network access. So by default, a lot of apps that you install from Play Store, they have advanced permission to what the app actually requires. And you can actually go and deny permissions and see if the app still works, and you should do that. They are actually taking a lot more permissions than what is actually required to offer the services, and that is how they are able to get data and customize, or see how better they can sell their service. Now, this is a case of Sam himself. So he's traveling today, and see what details Google has about him. He has been in Kerala for last 3 days, and this is the place that he has traveled, where all he has traveled, his footprints. So all these details are available on Google, and the apps that have data on you, by virtue of them being available on a Google Play Store or using Android phones, just imagine what kind of data Google has on you, right? So this is just like a simple example on the location. Apart from that, Google knows your age, what you do, what you like, what you want to buy, what are your interests, what are your dislikes, those level of personal details, those are available with Google. Now, just to give you some more information on how this happens on the app. Mostly, this happens through cookies. Okay. Now, what is a cookie? So, whenever you browse a website or an app, there is a data that goes from your machine to the web server, right? So, cookie is nothing but a file that is shared by the web server, and it's stored locally, okay, on your machine. And what was cookie meant to do? Now, suppose you open a shopping app and you browse for hours, finding the cheapest but the best quality shirt for you, right? And you add it to the cart. Now, in absence of a cookie, what will happen after 2 hours? You have some work. After 2 hours, you open the cart again, your cart is empty. So as a consumer, you will be very upset कि अरे मैंने इतना time spent करके cart में add किया, but now the cart is empty. I'll have to repeat the exercise again. You might end up, forgetting about that. जाने दो. In your irritation, you said, "Stop. I'll not shop for this." So what it is intended to provide a personalized experience, stating that when you add something to your cart, it notes that you have added this product to your cart to ensure that you have a good experience good experience on that website, it will continue to hold that cart for some time or few days or forever. So this is what it is meant to do, right? To give you a personalized experience. If you browse through, say, a white shirt in a particular format, it is meant to show you other brands, similar shirts at cheaper price, expensive price, whatever. So that is what cookies are meant to do, and that is what companies do that. How they are being used today is there are multiple kinds of cookies. There are tracking cookies, there are third party cookies, there are zombie cookies, there are super cookies. You can just browse the net and find out about these various kinds of cookies. They are hidden, and they are they will keep track of all your activities across websites, and you're not even aware of it. So certain websites will take help of third party cookies to give them the data ki ye particular user group has this shopping pattern, so that now I need to provide more or add more catalog of these particular uh, clothes in on my website. So they will employ a third party agency to put these cookies and give them that information, but the cookies end up giving more information. A lot of time the cookies will also have certain sensitive personal data like your credit card number. If it's a poorly designed site, it will have your medical history, it will have everything that you do, and you're not aware of it. And there are also cookies, if you delete cookies, right, there are also certain cookies who are able to get back the deleted cookies and share that data. So cookies today, the amount of technological advancement in just using cookies on the websites has advanced a lot. So what these are the simple things that we can do. It will not ensure you 100% level of privacy, but certain level of, you can have certain level of comfort by doing this. A lot of these browsers have incognito mode. You can just click on plus and see open in incognito mode. You can do that. By using that, your cookies essentially are not created and saved. There are also privacy friendly search engines. This is one of the example which will not track you. So you can Google, and there are multiple set of such browsers that exist and search engines that exist, which will not keep a track of what all searches you have performed. And periodically start clearing your browser cookies and cache, right? These are some of the simple things they can do as a user. Of course, there are a lot of technical things that you can do, which we'll cover sometime later. For example, VPN and a lot of other technologies that you can implement. There are other apps also available which will not allow the websites to take your cookie and transfer it. So this is an overview of what cookie was. Now, currently across the world, how organizations are dealing with privacy and how they claim to protect your privacy. When you open a website, there are two types of consent. Consent is when they tell you we are going to use your details in cookies for this purpose, and you agree to share this data with us. If you see this second kind of picture, this is called as an explicit consent that is taken from you. Only if you click it and you yourself are allowing them to do that, okay, and then you avail the service. So this is explicit consent. This is something like an implicit consent. You give this data and they tell you कि you are not by signing it, you agree to our terms and conditions, okay. So by default, if you are using this service, you agree that you are giving us. So these kind of consent notices are available on the websites currently to tell you what they are doing with your data. Privacy notice, I'm not sure if anybody of you has seen Google's privacy notice. I would encourage you to go and read the privacy notice in detail. They will tell you what data it collects, for what purpose it is collecting, how it is stored, for how long, where all locations it is sharing your data, how you can delete your data, Google footprint, and how it gets deleted from their servers. So this is another way in which they inform users of how privacy is being implemented. Cookie notice, this is an example of what they say. So if you say I refuse cookies, it means that it will not give you a personalized experience. Next time you visit the website, it will give you a blank page and a generic page that loads every time, every new time. And forget me. So not in India, but in places where they have privacy regulations, the user or consumer also has the right to say, delete my data. If you no longer require that service, you can tell the service provider, right to be forgotten, right to erasure. The service provider has to acknowledge and within the stipulated time period, delete all the data associated with you on its platform, and the subordinate companies also needs to do that. So these are some of the current implementations, very limited, that we can see across portals. Just high level on what is implemented in terms of privacy implementations across the globe. So we have heard about GDPR that got implemented in Europe. Privacy data protection bill, very briefly we will touch about it now. It's still in draft stage, and it's not yet tabled. It's not yet passed officially by the government. So these are some of the bills, regulations that we have across the world for privacy. And GDPR is one of the strongest regulation in terms of the penalty and fines imposed by company on the offenders. So Google, Facebook, they have ended up due to lawsuit, they have ended up spending millions of dollars and euros on fighting lawsuits and giving penalties. So by that virtue, GDPR is one of the strongest. CCPA in US, if you see, it is more of say sectoral, regional. So they have privacy laws for a particular state, that's California, and they also have privacy laws for domains. So banking has specific privacy laws, health has specific privacy laws, insurance has specific privacy laws. So that's how US follows it. Otherwise, across the world, it's more at a country specific guideline. So in India, how privacy is what kind of regulation we have? It's primarily under IT Act. Okay, the privacy personal data protection bill was tabled in 2019, but it is still in draft stage, and it has been couple of years, and we are yet to see that bill being passed, and we don't know when that will pass. Until that time, IT Act will be the the regulation that all governing all the organizations within the country need to follow. So specifically in IT Act, they talk about sensitive personal data or information. They talk about this particular category includes biometrics, your medical records, your bank account numbers, your sexual orientation, those kind of sensitive details. So it talks about compensation for negligence in implementing and maintaining reasonable security practices and procedures. Now, reasonable security practices and procedures is again subject to interpretation, and each organization needs to ensure that basis on the service that it provides, what kind of security practices and procedures it has implemented to protect this SPDI. And it also has provision for punishment in case personal information is misused by the organization without the provider's consent. So we do have this for a very long time. but we need a detailed guideline on because we spoke about the various aspects. All this in detail in fine print is not mentioned in IT Act. So we do have certain regulation, but it's at a high level, and organizations are supposed to follow it. So what does all these regulations talk about? In a gist, everybody talks about this. So if you talk about GDPR, you talk about draft PDP, you talk about PIPEDA in Canada or in US. What it talks about is that notice. So every organization must provide notice to its users, what it's collecting, why it's collecting, how it is going to use that data, uh, what it may do with that data. So that kind of a privacy policy or notice has to be provided to the users. Choice and consent. So when I spoke about Cambridge Analytica, as a user, I must have the choice to tell Facebook that don't share my data with Cambridge Analytica. As a user, I have that choice of opting in or opting out of a particular service. So every user must be given a choice. These are the choices that you have. And consent, the user must give his consent, and it is said that you take explicit consent, don't take implicit consent. Explicit as in checkbox tick karwa ke take user's consent, so that this day this time user has given you consent, right? Limit collection, use only data that is required for the service. So like I mentioned, lot of apps are collecting more than what they require. It should not be done. Only the permissions that you require on the app for providing that service, only that data, collect only that data. Whenever you collect the data, use it only for that purpose. Now don't use that data for and send it to a third party and use it for marketing, for advertisement. If you're doing that, give it in the notice, provide it specifically in the notice. So use the data very specifically for the purpose it is collected to. Provide customers the right. As a user, I should be able to see what all data Facebook has about me. I should be able to delete the data permanently, update it, correct it. So as a customer, I have certain rights on my data that you are using, right? The data should be accurate and complete. So a lot of time, because of incomplete or wrong data, there are certain services that get denied to us. Okay, so the data that is there should be accurate and complete at all times, and ensure that you have security practices to protect personal data. In a gist, this is what all regulations will talk about. How it gets implemented is different, will be different for different regulations, but in a gist, this is what all regulations will talk about, including privacy data protection bill in India, right? It talks about all this. uh, my last slide before I go ahead, in terms of technically, because you're all engineers, technically what kind of controls you can implement for data privacy. So there are multiple technologies. Some of them I will just take you through in brief. So we have dynamic data masking in real time. So whenever an application, so you have a core application which has collected your data. So suppose there is an interdependent application, and this data flows there, but that application does not need to see all the data, right? So dynamically, your data gets masked whenever that application or that particular user group is accessing that data. So dynamically, that data which is not required to be seen gets masked. Similarly, static level also, at the database level, you can mask the data. You can, by masking you mean partially hash it, take only last 3 digits, of the data. So static masking is done at a static level, and the database will always hold a masked value of the data. Encryption is something that translates it into another form, and anybody who wants to see it needs to have a key to read that data. Okay, so data encryption is again a technology that is used. Tokenization, why tokenization is being used? Say you take your credit card data, right? Earlier, a lot of applications that use credit card, they use it in a 16-digit number. Okay, now suppose when you do encryption, it converts it into hexadecimal or some other format which the application will not understand, right? It is expecting a 16-digit number. So what tokenization does it, sorry, not tokenization, I was talking about format preserving encryption. What format preserving encryption does it? It will keep the format of this data as it is. It will change the value but keep it as a 16-digit number only. Now tokenization is something that when you give a number, say PAN number or Aadhaar, say A, B, C, D, E, it will convert that into a token, say D, E, F, G, H. This is a token of your Aadhaar number. And this token is stored in your database, and everywhere else, all the applications will only use the token and not the original value of the number. So that's how tokenization process works. Anonymization, de-identification is again, you will anonymize, or there are certain technologies available so that your personal data is removed from your profile, or translated in a way that it will be about a person, but it will not be able to identify that this person is, say, Shweta Nair. It will be about a person, and these are the details, but nobody will know that this is about this particular person. So these are some of the security controls that currently are being used across the industry. So at a high level, what we have covered today is what privacy essentially means, what is the state of privacy today, how apps are using your data. At a very high level, we have seen what controls are essential. You can have, there can be dedicated lecture on just security controls for application and privacy. So we can have that subsequently. I think I have briefed the timeline. I am open to any questions that you may have regarding what we discussed today.
Yes, students. Yes, if anybody having question, then you can ask. You can unmute yourself and you can ask, or you can type your question on the chat box.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
मेरा जो क्वेश्चन था, तो ब्राउजर के बारे में तो आपने बताया कि हम दूसरे ब्राउजर यूज कर सकते हैं जो अपनी पूरी कुकीज नहीं स्टोर करते और इनकॉग्निटो मोड। पर अब लोकेशन के बारे में, तो लोकेशन के बारे में क्या कर सकते हैं? मतलब वो सब अपन को
अगेन
ट्रेस तो कर
लोकेशन,
सकता है।
हाँ, लोकेशन के लिए क्या कर सकते हैं हम? आप पहले सी, अगर आप गूगल मैप यूज कर रहे हो तो आपको लोकेशन देना ही पड़ेगा, राइट?
यस मैम।
वरना आपको वो सर्विस ही नहीं मिलेगी. दैट सर्विस वर्क्स ऑन यूजिंग योर लोकेशन. However, there are other apps, what like I mentioned, आप अपने ऐप के सेटिंग और प्राइवेसी में जाके just see how many apps have access to the location and disable or don't give them rights to your location, and you have a pop-up when you use that application. It will say this application needs location to move ahead. उसमें 3 ऑप्शन आते हैं. Deny this permission, use it only while
once. Okay. Yes.
use it only while using the service, and use it at all times. तो
Always,
आपको क्लिक
okay.
करना है use it only
This
while
one.
using the service.
Using this app. Okay.
Yeah. So then so these are some of the things that we can do. अभी backend में वो डेटा कैसे कंज्यूम कर रहा है वो हमको आइडिया नहीं है, बट as a best practice, this is what you should be doing. So review all the permissions that you have on the apps today to see कि कितने apps ने आपके बहुत जरूरत से ज्यादा permissions लिए हुए.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have a question from Unmej saying login with Gmail. What is the exact question? I'm not clear.
मैम कोई भी अगर फॉर्म हम फिल करते हैं वहाँ पे आता है लॉगिन विद जीमेल या फिर लॉगिन विद फेसबुक, तो उसमें कुकीज हमारी या फिर टोकन हमारा जाता है, मतलब वो फॉर्म के फिल में, तो इसके बारे में कुछ बता सकते हैं?
हाँ, so that is a federated system. I think Sam also can add. So when an organization does this, is again ये सब all this has come up for ease of use, right? As a consumer, they noticed के users को 100 applications के लिए 100 user ID और 100 passwords याद नहीं रह रहे, right? So what we can do, to ease provide the ease of authentication or logging experience for the user, what it has done is it uses federated login experience where आप Google या Facebook से login करके application पे login करते हो, right? So उससे theoretically Google and Facebook is only आपको login करके दे रहा है, but what details the app is sharing with Google or Facebook in terms of your browsing is something आपको उसके वहाँ पे जाके आपको थोड़ा स्टडी करना पड़ेगा in terms of privacy policy. आपको कुकी देखना होगा, कुकी पॉलिसी देखना होगा कि Google और Facebook के साथ क्या क्या डेटा शेयर हो रहा है. So it is up to you. अगर आपको वो नहीं यूज करना है, आप अपने ईज के लिए यूज करते हो, राइट? बिकॉज मुझे 10 जगह पे 10 यूजर आईडी पासवर्ड नहीं क्रिएट करना है. मेरा एक जीमेल है, मैं वहीं से सब सर्विस में वहीं से लॉग इन करूंगा. So if you don't want that, then you have to take efforts and have maintained different kind of user ID passwords. Sam, you want to add something here?
No, I think you have covered most of it. So, yeah, like you said, it's a federated system. From a privacy point of view, it is about about the fact that these people are offering these services so that they can still track the users who are not directly on Google for that service. So like for example, users who are going out and doing some other services, by doing this federated system, they still know that this particular user who is using, let's say, Facebook, Google for a lot of other things, for this particular service, he is using some other solution or app, so that they know what next to make. So from privacy point of view, of course, there is some kind of implications here, but then like Shweta said, for ease of users, people will tend to use this actually.
Okay, we also have a question from Ayush saying that is that for browser is safer while browsing? How do you browse privately? So Ayush, is your question on incognito mode? Do you?
No, this is I think on Tor. So Tor is a browser which kind of lets you go to some other gateway. So basically, the way it functions is rather than it will establish a VPN or a virtual private network from your system to a different proxy server which is located in some other country. So that is how a Tor works. By virtue of that, your locational privacy is protected. So you don't people will not know where you are located. That way. But then see, there are on the other side, lot of Tors are actually designed to track people also. So if you kind of end up using a Tor, which belongs to an illegal person, they might be actually snooping on you. So Tor came as an open source concept. Today, of course, there are commercial, scenarios also. So there is a plus and minus. See, if you are using it in a judicious manner, it might probably uh, is maintained. They will not know that you browsed actually. Does that answer the question, Ayush?
Yes, sir, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Mayur stating that Indian government has banned a lot of Chinese apps. Is this necessary for security of people of nation or anti-China campaign? Actually, it's both. So it depends on what your viewpoints are. But essentially, China has been known to be, a bully, and it snoops big time on all the countries' data. Essentially, how it does that is through multiple. So there are specific technologies, use cases, and you can read more about it on how China is actually harvesting data from all the countries across the world. This is a very minor thing. It may or may not impact security of the people of a country. It is more as a as a reaction to what happened across the border. By doing this, we might not actually not give them data, right? They have other ways and other methods um, to do that. So is my voice clear? I'm getting some network.
Yes, ma'am, clear.
Sam, your voice is breaking.
Yes, sir, voice is breaking.
Sam, your voice is breaking. You can probably type in the chat box. So see, today all the phones that you use, the physical handset is manufactured in China, right? So all your devices, your personal, your laptops, your computers, everything is from China. So the level of or what kind of the technology that they have, there have been stories that Lenovo, there have been case studies, or you can Google about it, that Lenovo chips were snooping on user activities. So we don't actually know. So just by banning these apps, security of the people of the country can be protected. No, that not completely, somewhat. As a user, see, they don't want to, don't want what I or you are doing, right, as a individual. So as a collective, as a nation, as government level, top bureaucracy, what they are doing is something that they're interested, and they will find out this information anyhow. Sam, you want to add something?
Yeah, I think the network seems to have come back. So China runs parallel networks of almost everything. They are not allowing any of the standard apps to work there. Even Google, Facebook, everything is controlled through their data centers and their laws. So from that point of view, I mean, there's nothing wrong here, plus say, but yeah, like Shweta said, the timing of that was very much related to the border situation at that point in time.
Yes, thank you. I think there is no any questions. So yes, anybody having question, then you can unmute yourself. Okay. So by the way, ma'am, actually, as a educator and as a in a teaching field, so actually, there is one always question. That's we are attending the webinar cybersecurity. So today's topic is the what's privacy status. So like Is there is any courses related to the privacy that so that our two students can participate or enroll on that courses or certification is there to enter this domain?
Yeah, there are multiple courses and webinars available. I think what I can do is me or Sam can send out the list of courses that are currently available in the market. Apart from that, there are a lot of webinars and free lectures available on YouTube and other platforms, which students can start seeing. And so IAPP is one such organization. IAPP, I'll just type it out, but it's an expensive course which I will not recommend at this stage to the students. But this particular website has a lot of content on privacy because it's a forum for privacy, within which there are a lot of certifications, which the I think the students can do when they enter and have some amount of experience in the field. Apart from that, ISACA has certification on privacy. DSCI has certifications on privacy. So these are some of the organizations. At least from the start point, you can have a look on their content at least. But these courses and certifications are expensive, and I would not recommend students to take this up now, but only after they have relevant experience.
Yeah.
So to start with, they can go through the content available here.
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. So if anybody don't have the question, then we can move on to the vote of thanks. Yes. So yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Uh, Babul Babu sir, are you there? Hello, sir. Babul Babu sir. Hello. Hello, sir. Sir, Babul Babu sir. There is something. Let me check. Hello, sir. Roshan sir, are you there? Hello, Roshan sir.
Hello.
Yes, yes. Actually, yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, yes. I think Babulakar is not actually. Yes. So we can continue to vote of thanks. Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible. Some little bit noise are there from your side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now it is audible.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, yes. So on behalf of IT department, mm, I'm here. I'm the head of the department IT for vote of thanks. Um, we're very much thankful to Sam sir, Shweta Nair madam, Ingole sir, other esteemed alumni, colleagues and students. Uh, it was very nice experience or knowledge she shared.
Hello.
And yes, yes, Babu Lokar. Yes, you
हाँ
are confirming.
हाँ 1 minute sir 1 minute. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sweta madam. Uh,
Okay, maybe for having network issue. So, so shall I proceed? Yes.
Yeah, Muru sir, I think yeah.
Actually, yes.
Yes. It's, I think some issue in his mic also. Yes. Sam sir. And Shweta madam. Then again, one. Hello.
Sir, this is Babul Gaur.
Hello. Babu. Yeah.
Right now I joined from my mobile. My laptop is not working.
Okay,
Hello.
sir. You can proceed. Yeah, sir. Okay.
Okay. So it was very nice presentation. Thank you, Sweta madam, for giving such a nice presentation and knowledge about the private.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure. Thanks for calling me for this session.
And one point from 1 hour, my daughter is also learning these concepts, and she learned a lot about privacy. I think for girls it is more important.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I thank to the team of alumni for giving this nice opportunity for our students for attending such kind of webinar so that they can learn new things and they can understand the
I
threats
think
that are.
voice is not audible.
Hello,
Yes, audible, sir, ma'am.
is it clear now?
Yes, clear.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So through this webinar, the students learn the threats that are prevailing in the market about using the information technology in day-to-day life. So this will be definitely helpful to the students to access or to use the IT as a whole in their life, whether they should opt for a particular app or not, they should use the particular service or not, all kind of decisions they should take with care and so that they will be secure while using them. Okay, so with this, I thank to our alumni association from the Department of Information Technology and from our university for organizing such a seminar. And I would like to invite you and your team for such seminars in future too with the different new topics so that our students will learn about the new areas that are prevailing in the industry about the current technology. Oh.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so thank you all. Thank you, Sweta ma'am. Thank you, Sam sir. Thank you, Santosh sir. So here I can consider that. So today's meeting is we can end. Okay, and we will meet soon with new topics. Maybe from Amol Khatawkar sir, or maybe some of our alumni who are very interested in cyber security to share their knowledge. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you, Sweta ma'am, Sam Varghese sir, Santosh sir, our HOD and our coordinator, PR Bablu Gaukar sir, and all students. Thank you so much. We will meet soon. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Shweta.